Okay, so you said the
That
top.
one is really good.
Okay,
That
you said the topic should be love. You
is all in one.
said the topic should be love.
Yes, that's
So right now, our brothers are sitting at Sankofa having actual Sankofa dialogue. So, and the topic or the subject that matters is love. So, we're gonna try to tackle this. So, being the moderator, we would do a clockwise cipher or have the spirit flow. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go first. Can somebody hold this for? Somebody take turns. Love. Okay. Now, first of all, if we're gonna touch on the subject of love, we got to go back to spiritual regeneration. Now, seeing that all of us brothers here are of some type of African ethnicity, I would try to go back to our ancestors, you know, basically using the Sankofa medium. So now, if I look back in ancient Egyptian times, the way they expressed love, we would have to deal with the ontology and the oxology. Now, oxology deals with the values of whatever philosophy we stand upon. Now, you know, I'm coming from a biblical perspective, but an Afrocentric biblical perspective. So basically, it's coming from my introspection, and with me being African, it's going to be somewhat in similarity to the ancient Kemechian teachings. Now, love goes beyond just some type of emotional affection that you show for your spouse. But love is based upon your ideology, the disposition that you hold. So I believe that us as a black people, we cannot express love in its most purest form or in the most potential that we have if we do not understand our own identity, you know, and embrace our ethnicity. So basically what I'm trying to in other words, what I'm basically saying here is that if we don't understand ourselves, then how can we actually express this quality, this characteristic in its purest, in its best manner? How can we show affection to its highest degree if we don't understand how to be ourselves? Because I believe each individual has some type of special quality within themselves to express the same value that we all possess. But if we don't know what we harness within us, then how can we express it? So dealing with love, I believe that we don't express love in its purest form due to us being stripped of our culture and lacking understanding of our identity. So I think that in order for us to get back to love in its purest form, that we must reattach ourselves to our spiritual source. And one of the great processes of doing that is knowing your history, and that's where you start the road off to finding the conquest of your identity. Who would like to go next, or will I have to?
Well, shit, I'll just pick up where you left off, man. I think that you touched on what I think of as the foundation, starting with knowledge itself. Again, as you alluded to, we can't possibly self-actualize without knowledge itself, without knowing who we are.
Right.
And our expressions of love has to be within that frame of reference of our actualizing our highest self.
Amen.
I think of reciprocity, reciprocal. That means that if I'm 1/4, then I need you to be 3/4. It's not just about an even give and take. It's about my strengths being your my weaknesses, you strengthening my weaknesses, and me being the strength for yours.
Right.
If we can get back to a place of self-knowledge, then we have the opportunity to love each other in a more holistic sense. Right now, we're surrounded by a lot of battles. It's warfare, and we're on a lot of different battle lines. Love gets strained under those circumstances. So the question is always, through love, how do we heal?
Okay. Okay. Now, is the brother going to, who's coming up next? Who would like to speak next? So I have to pick. Let us pick Kendall. Brother Kendall, can we get some feedback from you on love? Hotep.
Only come to add on to what's already been said. So I was scribing. And from what I described was, we're dealing with self-actualization, knowledge of self, we're dealing with expression, we're dealing with the environment, proximity, socialization. I think when it comes to those of African ascent, or the Africans in America, we fall victim to a lot of Disney, we fall victim to a lot of cartoons, victims to the unhealthy relationships we see in our environment. I personally was taught about Ma'at, divine balance and harmony. So I find it difficult to talk about love without a queen, mother, or sister queen.
Amen.
But since that's the topic, I add on to what's already been said. And what's the void, we can do another series and get some sisters to put on, because from what I was taught that
Amen.
the woman come first. Without the woman, no life. So to ask a man about love, he has to ask his mother first, because that's how he got here. I only got here, I wasn't made in the lab, Before I knew God, I was taught God. And the person who taught me God was my mother. So that's what I have to say about love. I have to start with the original relationship. Me, my umbilical cord, and my ethereal mother, who's responsible for getting me here safely, with good health, with right mind. So we can talk about our development with love after we deal with the facts, the science, and the spirituality, because it's the two heads of the same coin. Science and spirituality that can be defined and produced 99.9% of the time. Spirituality is scientific knowledge not yet known or honed by man. So that's how I feel. I add on.
That was definitely, I think everybody going in unison, and it's something that leads me to things that I'm working on in terms of fixing or healing the picture of a black family. And so when he said going back to a woman, there was a quote that I wrote, and it talks about, like, do you think the grass is green on the other side? Well, it too may turn brown or yellow after experiencing you. As in, 9 times out of 10, there are men out there who are dealing with women, right? They're contaminated that relationship. And in their mind, it's time to leave and find something better. And what that's doing is shattering the black family for us. So we have mothers by themselves raising their children to teach them. And when they are doing it by themselves, they depend on things like Disney and radio and music. And when that happens, these people don't know nothing about love. They're not biblically found. So what happens, they teach the emotions and the feelings of love, right? So again, I wrote another quote that talked about fact, act, feelings follow, right? So you take the fact of the situation. Love is a true choice. It's a true way of life, right? So you take the facts of the situations, you act off of the fact, and then you feel good about it later, right? But with the feeling-oriented people today, they feel something, they make a choice based off of their feelings, with their actions, and then they get into bad situations and feel bad about it later. So when you have people who are 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kid without a father, it was a feeling-oriented thing. They never learned that love from, like my brother said, from his mother, but by way of the heirs of the leader, which is the father.
Amen.
Right? So everything is, it's definitely a battle that he talked about, but it's multiple battles, man. And in order to heal, I think that we have to exploit our talents, find our youth. Like, I can be pouring into the youth, you can be pouring into the fathers, you can be inspiring mothers, but we all gotta exploit our own talents in a way that's gonna heal our community, rather than, keep the cycle going or saying, oh, that's not my issue.
Amen.
I don't have to deal with that. So we always gotta know how to connect all our failures, all the things that we need to fix. We gotta connect it to the larger picture. And the larger picture is in society, in the media, the black family is just, it's not what's happening.
Amen.
The black man is not, he's not a human, so.
Amen. And I would like to, as I was sitting there listening to all three of our brothers, this is just beautiful. Let me just start off saying glory to the Most High. And I wanna touch on first thing what this brother was saying about the woman. Now listen, you definitely cannot have no dialogue about love without having the woman. But let me throw this also in here for my introspection. Now, there's allegories dealing with the creation. We can go from the biblical context, we can go from ancient Kemeshi. But guess what? Either way where we come from is coming from an African mindset. We look at Igbo, we look at Yoruba, there was nothing but proverbs, there was nothing but parables and allegories. I said that to say the Adam and Eve story dealing with the creation and dealing with the whole Garden of Eve is an allegory. Now let us look at the context of what he talks about, the man and the woman. The woman was made from man and not apart from man. Man was made first, but check out that woman was made from man. Okay? Now, if we look in John's, the Gospel of John says in the beginning was the Word and the Word was with God. Right? And then in Revelations 3 verse 14 it says that the Word was the beginning of the creation of God. And now let's look at the ancient Kemeshian system where it talks about the mythology dealing with creation, how God has rise under the form of Tefnu, bringing himself into existence. Like the first thing he did was reproduce himself. So he reproduced himself as the beginning of the creation. Now, my whole key, I bring this is how I correlate this, that man and woman are signs and symbols of God. See, another thing that is taught but is not deeply expounded upon as in the ancient Kemeshian system is God distributed his qualities equally down the line between the man and the woman. In the ancient Kemeshian system, it talks about the 36 attributes of God. 18 be given to man, 18 be given to woman. Now, nevertheless, the reason why I was talking about woman coming from man is because that is in the same sense that the word came from God. And what the word is depicted as being the express radiance and glory of God. So therefore, in no sense is there some type of inferiority between the relations, because they're both one. That's why I said that as they may become one, as we are one. This physical is a vehicle to bring us back to the spiritual. You know, so when we start to look at it from a higher degree, our spouse are one with us. And then from the sense of what he was touching on, this is the life giver. We can't even, they go through the 9 months of gestation. They carry the child. And as the creation was brought in through the world, through the word, so do we bring our life force and our creation through our woman. They are our crown and our glory, as the word was the crown and the glory of the Father. So we got to start looking at things from not the Western perception. Don't let their context define the content. But look at the content from your introspection. And so with dealing with love, it gets so deep. And like the brother said, we do need another episode involving our women. And that's mine.
Yeah. Peace, God, Cypher. The dread only adds on. What I'd like to add on to what the good brother said is that if we're going to truly dive into the African thought, the primordial before the foreignness of contact, you don't often see the genderization of God, for that would be giving God human-like qualities, which is a slippery slope that anybody can fall into. So in efforts to just add on, I would like to go to the reality of the situation. It's hard to have a conversation about love when your village is not secure, when the food is not secure, when the shelter is not secure, when the family is not secure. Now we're talking about healthy human beings and the environment in which they come from. So if we're going to talk about content, I feel like we must also talk about context. In North American wilderness, we deal with a people whose relationship with love is competition. Even from sex to the romance and the seduction process is competition. He looks at the woman as a citadel to be sieged, to be attained, to be taken. meaning she has to be taken from something first. And I feel like it could be very problematic, and we have to deal with the hookup culture and the type of things that produce the hookup culture, from the music to the commercialization to the type of sitcoms and televisions we have on the TV screen. Because if we be real with ourselves, we can have blog posts, and we can have the honorable fight of trying to fight propaganda with propaganda, but you're dealing with a people who had a 400-year head start, who had 400 years of destroying your image, destroying your name, destroying your language, destroying your notion, your concept of self, your notion of community, your notions of love. And when we deal with love sociologically, one thing that we find is we can find trends. And we know that these are the type of people who capitalize on trends or things that are trending. And proximity, the environment, has a lot to do with whom you fall in love with or who you just seek love from. So before we get away from the creation story and the life force, I just would like to put it in like context of like what we're dealing right now, the crisis at hand. Right.
Okay. So just to kind of piggyback off of what they were saying, I want to talk about another concept that I released and then something I thought about last night and wrote. But your success in this life is contingent upon your ability to manage your relationship with women. In terms of mother, wife, girls, girlfriends. And that's the thing that we are losing as a youth, as young men. Not only for young men, but the young women are losing what to expect and what to accept. So last night I wrote this. I said, too many babies, not enough rings. The baby boy do what dad do and bring more pain. Baby girl is impaired in what she expects, keeping the cycle going by what she accepts. What if our children, without two solid parents, were likened to deer in America? Look how the states deal with too many dares. And I'm going to help you connect the dots. So whenever we have too many dares in the country, these are the couple of things they do to get rid of it or to minimize it. They reintroduce predators, right? So they ask you, do you want to put or release mountain lions in your neighborhood to help get rid of the dares? What can mountain lions be? White police in black communities? George Zimmerman type people in black communities? Drugs? But also, it can also be, you know, those white residents who shot the black guy for too much music. The second thing was contraception. Right? Well proven to be not a practical solution except on small islands. So everybody's on birth control right now. Right? So we decide to teach birth control. Let's try to control them, right? No, what we should teach is the unity of man and woman. Right? So the next thing was trap and relocate. This is like trapping and relocating rats. No place wants more deer. Besides, many deers have died during the process when it has been attempted. What do you think jail and prison is? Right? Put them in there, they relocate and send it. Like you do a crime here, you're going to go upstate or you're going to go somewhere else. And you know, there's people who die in the system. The next one is trap and kill or bait and kill using sharpshooters. Unfortunately, this is really the only plausible solution for many trapped dares in towns and suburbs. So that Michael Brown situation, old boy knew the law. He knew exactly what he needed to do to make Michael Brown react a certain kind of way, and he knew that he can get away with murder. Why? Because we don't know the laws. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't have leaders that's leading us into it. And then the last one was remove or limit deer status as protected species. Are we even counted as people anymore? We talk about dehumanizing. Yes, they dehumanize us. But what are we doing for our community if we dehumanizing ourselves, like my man said? How you going to begin to fight the opposition when you already injured the people on your team? You know what I mean? So, I'm gonna end with that.
Shit.
So, wow. I just think that this is a very important conversation that we're having, and everybody's touched on some really key points that I'm just probably going to touch upon myself. First of all, my brother started talking about content versus context, and Kendall went on to elaborate on that. And I think those are very important questions. Sometimes I often look at it as consciousness versus conditions. And if we're talking about love, even if you, and we're talking about our African worldview and our sense of self and getting back to that self-actualization, then we have to examine the conditions or the context around us. For one, if you even look in the Bible, an earlier version would say, go forth and multiply. Now it says, go forth and prosper. See, the first sounds like, go forth and bring more life into this world. The next one sounds like, go forth and make a lot of money.
Right.
I think these are very intentional and political statements in which if we examine, we see how our conditions, how our context has changed, where we're now living in a society that's hell-bent on depopulation,
Right.
which again enters in the prison industrial complex, police murders, contraceptive, Planned Parenthood in your community.
Right.
Is a form of depopulation. I think as African people, we more accustomed in our cultural sense to going forth and multiplying and living in communities and communes where those that kind of activity, that kind of behavior, bringing more life into this world was to be praised, to be celebrated, something that we found joyous occasion in. Now we're not in the conditions that is right for that. Nowadays, you bring more life into this world. Now it's just another mouth to feed. It's just something else that you have to pay for. It's liability. Under this order, unnatural order of things.
Right.
Life and more life is kind of set to the side, and we have to worry more about the resources that we are able to attain and establish and use to sustain this life.
Right. I want to finish this, but I'm glad that we have this interchange. And when we have these things, who are the people among us that's challenging each other, right? So he said, be fruitful and multiply, right? And it's the thing to celebrate. Every time I see an unwed mother have a baby and the congratulations story come on, I don't know where I get the passion to tell her congratulations. Like, you don't have a father figure, a situation for the first two. Like, I'm not happy about this third one.
Right.
I wasn't happy about the second one or the first one. So, when are we challenging them in terms of the men?
Right.
Yeah, man, I got 3 little ones, whatever. So why are you out here with me? Why are you not with them, right? Or when I go in the barbershop and I hear conversations about people, educating brothers on how to cheat. Like, when you cheat, you can't date the other girl. Right? Why is we encouraging that? Like, so I would like to call everybody and say, challenge somebody, right? Because the minute you say, again, that don't have nothing to do with me, that ain't my home, you're losing contact.
Right.
You're not knowing what's going on, how it's going to come back to you.
Right.
So, I talked to my brother earlier, but we got some artists out there. We're going to work together. We're going to create a huge collage, kind of like the Beehive Collective, and show how all decisions lead to something.
Right. Amen.
So that way it can be on paper, and then so when we go educate my young man, say, young brother, don't do that. Well, do you want this to happen to you? No. Well, this is how it connects. So when people are able to connect things, it's easier to make sound decisions. So we definitely time to challenge people.
I would like to. We definitely had a good dialogue there. I would like to end my piece basically saying what I started off at. It should be evident if we assess this whole dialogue what the root of the problem is, but what needs to resonate within our mind is the method to get to the root, uproot it, and make the soil fertile again. And that's tackling this miseducation factor here. We need to be re-educated. That's what we got to focus on. That's what we gotta focus on there, because love is the foundation of life. Love is how life came into existence. Life is love, but we don't see life; we see death. So we're in the midst of a combat here. You know, spiritually, physically, internal factors and external factors. So we gotta realize that this is a conquest we gotta be on here, and take this and see it as being imperative. So these dialogues should provoke not only thoughts, but should provoke other dialogues that will eventually engage people to actually coming up with plans and programmings and networking and open up with each other. Because one of the things that actually how would I say, perpetuate our enslavement, you know what I'm saying, this detrimental mindset that we hold dearly onto, is miscommunication. Is the communication factor. I don't trust him, I don't trust him, this, that, and the third. Don't openly say things, don't know how to respect each other. There's not too many dialogues here, brother, where they would have been just peaceful like this. This is strictly unscripted. This is strictly unscripted. You don't see dialogues going on like this.
Not in our community.
You do not see within our community. That's because of miscommunication. The world problems is centered around miscommunication, and you got to understand how quintessential communication is with life. The world was created through sound, spoken word. We got to get back to the cantation. And I would end right there.
I'm gonna add on just real briefly. When you say words like re-educate ourselves, what you imply is that we already had an education.
Exactly.
Or whatever we posing as an education is an alternative method. But all I go to say is, let's get educated.
Right.
Because we haven't been educated. I don't even think we've been miseducated. We haven't been educated.
Right.
So we should take it upon ourselves to educate ourselves. Since when did we outsource our education to other people?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's knowledge yourself. That's
Right.
all the dread come add on.
Right.
All right, bro. That was that.
We need to do that
Stay tuned.
consistently.